You walk into a pharmacy with a prescription you have bought before. You hand over your insurance card. Wait a few minutes, and then the pharmacist tells you the price. Maybe it is $20. Maybe it is $200. Maybe it changed since last month, and nobody standing at the counter can clearly explain why. Most people assume the pharmacist sets the price, or the drug company did, or maybe the insurance company changed something. But there is another company in that transaction, a company you probably never chose, may never have heard of, and may never see named on the bottle. It can influence which medicine your insurance covers, what the pharmacy gets paid, which pharmacy you are allowed to use, and how much of a discount actually reaches you. It is called a Pharmacy Benefit Manager, a PBM, and in 2023, just 3 of them managed 79% of prescription claims in the United States, nearly 4 out of every 5. The companies say they use their size to negotiate lower prices and save patients and employers billions. Federal regulators say parts of the same system have rewarded higher list prices, squeezed independent pharmacies, and produced extraordinary markups on medicines for serious diseases. So, who is telling the truth? The uncomfortable answer may be both of them. And once you understand how that is possible, the price on your receipt stops looking like a price. It starts looking like the final number in a negotiation you were never allowed to see. To understand the system, imagine a company with 50,000 employees. It wants to provide prescription coverage, but it does not want to negotiate separately with every drug maker and every pharmacy in America. So it hires a PBM. The PBM builds a pharmacy network, processes claims, negotiates discounts, and helps decide which drugs receive the best insurance coverage. That approved list of drugs is called a formulary. The name sounds technical. The idea is simple. If your medicine is preferred, your insurance may cover it more generously. If it is placed lower on the list, you may pay more, need special approval, or be pushed toward another drug. On paper, this makes sense. The PBM gathers millions of patients into one enormous buying group and tells a drug company, "Give us a better deal, or your medicine may not get the best access to our members." That bargaining can create real savings, but the modern PBM is no longer just a quiet claims processor between separate businesses. The 3 largest are CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx. Caremark is part of CVS Health, which also owns the insurer Aetna and a huge pharmacy chain. Express Scripts is part of Cigna and is connected to a major specialty pharmacy. Optum Rx is part of United Health Group, which also owns an insurer, clinics, data companies, and pharmacy operations. Picture one corporate family standing at several points in the same transaction. One arm provides the insurance, another designs the prescription benefit, another decides which pharmacies enter the network, another may fill the prescription, and money can move between those arms through contracts the patient never sees. The Federal Trade Commission found that the 6 largest PBMs handled 94% of prescription claims. The largest 3 increased their share from 70% in 2016 to 79% in 2023. Technically, employers, pharmacists, and drug makers still have choices. Practically, avoiding the largest networks can be extremely difficult. But size is not the strangest part of this system. The real puzzle begins with a word that sounds helpful: a rebate. Imagine Drug A has a list price of $100 and offers a $10 rebate. Drug B has a list price of $200 but offers a rebate of $120. After the rebate, Drug B has the lower final cost. So, to the health plan, Drug B may look like the better deal, but the patient at the pharmacy may not be paying from that private final cost. A patient with a deductible or percentage-based coinsurance
can still have a payment connected to the much higher list price. The plan receives the discount later. The patient faces the price now. This does not happen in every plan, with every drug, or to every patient, but it shows how the system can lower the final cost for an employer while still creating a painful price for the person at the counter. The PBM industry says its negotiating power forces drug companies to compete. It says most rebates are passed to health plans and used to reduce premiums and other costs. That defense matters. Drug manufacturers set the list prices. PBMs do not simply type those numbers into a computer, but a market can reward a high price without directly creating it. If access to millions of patients depends partly on the size of the rebate, a high-priced medicine offering a dramatic discount can compete differently from a lower-priced medicine offering a small discount, even when the patient would have preferred the lower price from the beginning. The FTC focused on this issue in its case involving insulin. The agency alleged that manufacturers competed for preferred coverage by offering larger rebates from increasingly high list prices, while some lower list price products could be disadvantaged. The companies disputed that description. They argued that manufacturers, not PBMs, set insulin prices, and that their negotiations create savings. And now the argument moves in a circle. Manufacturers blame PBMs for demanding rebates. PBMs blame manufacturers for setting high prices. Insurers say rebates help control premiums. Employers say the contracts can be too complicated to fully audit. And the patient is left staring at a number on a pharmacy screen with no way to see the negotiation that produced it. But rebates are only one stream of money. The next one is easier to understand and much harder to ignore.
A PBM can decide which pharmacies are included in its network. For expensive specialty medicines, it may also require or strongly encourage a patient to use a particular specialty pharmacy. Now remember what we discovered earlier. The largest PBMs are connected to their own pharmacies. So the company influencing where the prescription goes may also benefit when it arrives at an affiliated business. In its 2024 report, the FTC said pharmacies affiliated with the three largest PBMs received 68% of specialty drug dispensing revenue in 2023. In 2016, it was 54%. Then the agency examined 51 specialty generic drugs used for conditions including cancer, HIV, multiple sclerosis, and transplant care. Between 2017 and 2022, affiliated pharmacies generated more than $7.3 billion in dispensing revenue above the government's estimate of what those medicines cost to acquire. Some were marked up by hundreds of percent, others by thousands. The FTC also estimated another $1.4 billion from spread pricing. Spread pricing sounds complicated. It is not. The PBM bills the health plan one amount. It pays the pharmacy a lower amount, and it may keep some or all of the difference. Earning money for managing a complicated prescription benefit is not automatically proof of misconduct. The deeper concern is visibility. The employer may not know exactly what the pharmacy received. The pharmacy may not know exactly what the health plan was billed. The patient sees neither number. And when the PBM's corporate family owns the pharmacy receiving the prescription, this is no longer a simple negotiation between independent companies. It is more like a building with several cash registers, all connected to the same office upstairs. The FTC found that affiliated pharmacies dispensed 44% of the specialty generic prescriptions it studied. But among prescriptions marked up by more than $1,000 each, their share rose to 72%. The agency said that pattern suggested highly profitable prescriptions may have been steered toward affiliated pharmacies. The companies reject the idea that integration is automatically harmful. They say it can coordinate care, lower costs, manage difficult medicines,
and deliver prescriptions more reliably. That may be true for some patients, but it leaves one question no corporate chart can answer. When the same corporate family represents the insurer, controls the benefit, and owns the pharmacy, whose interest comes first when those interests collide? Independent pharmacists describe the system from the other side of the counter. Some say PBM contracts arrive as take-it-or-leave-it agreements. Some have told regulators they were reimbursed less than the cost of buying the medicine. Others describe fees appearing after a prescription was already filled, audits too expensive to fight, or patients being redirected toward a pharmacy owned by the same corporate family as the PBM. For a nationwide chain, one prescription that loses money can disappear inside thousands of stores. For one community pharmacy, enough losing prescriptions can close the doors. And when a pharmacy disappears from a rural town, the loss is not only financial. The next location may be 30 miles away. An older patient may lose the pharmacist who knew every medicine they took. A family that once picked up an urgent prescription that afternoon may now wait for a package to arrive. This is where the story becomes emotionally simple and economically complicated. PBMs did not create every problem in American drug pricing. Drug companies set prices. Insurers design deductibles and co-payments. Employers choose contracts. Wholesalers, patents, pharmacies, hospitals, and government rules all affect the cost. Removing the PBM would not magically make every medicine affordable. The industry's trade group says PBM services save payers and patients 40 to 50% compared with a system that does not use them. It says rebates are largely passed to health plans and used to reduce premiums and other costs. Those claims deserve to be heard, because a middleman can negotiate genuine savings. But a middleman can also become so powerful and the contracts so difficult to see that nobody outside the system can clearly say where those savings went. That is the central problem. Not that discounts never exist, that the person buying the medicine often cannot see who received them.
In September 2024, the Federal Trade Commission sued Caremark, Express Scripts, Optum Rx, and affiliated purchasing organizations. The agency alleged that their rebate practices helped inflate insulin list prices and restricted access to lower list price alternatives. Express Scripts settled in February 2026. The FTC said the agreement could reduce patients' out-of-pocket costs for medicines such as insulin by as much as $7 billion over 10 years. Then came July 14, 2026. Caremark reached its own settlement. The order would separate PBM compensation from a medicine's list price. It would require more transparency, change reimbursement options for community pharmacies, and expand rebates delivered directly to patients at the counter. The FTC estimated as much as $8.5 billion in consumer savings over 10 years, with as much as $4.5 billion more potentially reaching patients when they buy the medicine. Caremark described the agreement as a way to end the case and continue moving toward greater transparency and affordability. It did not accept the government's entire explanation of how the market works. The case involving Optum was removed from the trial process while regulators considered a proposed agreement. So, the system is changing. But look closely at what regulators wanted changed. They wanted PBM fees separated from drug list prices. They wanted discounts moved closer to the patient. They wanted clearer reimbursement choices for independent pharmacies. Those changes would not matter if the original incentives meant nothing. The real test is what happens next. Will patients actually see a lower price at the counter? Will employers receive contracts they can understand and audit? Will patients have a meaningful choice of pharmacy, even when the company controlling the benefit owns one of its own? And when the next expensive medicine enters the market,
Will companies compete to offer the lowest real price or the most impressive discount from a price almost nobody was ever expected to pay? Because that is the trick hidden inside the prescription system. The first number may not be the real price. The discount may not belong directly to the patient, and the company negotiating on your behalf may be negotiating with another part of itself. The next time a prescription suddenly costs more, the pharmacist standing in front of you may not be the person who made that decision. The decision may have been made months earlier, inside a contract between companies whose names never appear on the medicine bottle. And prescription drugs are not the only part of American life where the local business is no longer as local as it looks.